Errol Spence Terence Crawford. Freddie Roach picks who for the victory? What's good, everybody? It's your boy, Cardinal Red. But let's talk about it. Alright, y'all. So, the OG boxing coach, Freddie Roach, recently gave an interview. He spoke about Errol Spence versus Terence Crawford, and he gave his prediction on the fight. I just wanted to give my deuce on what Freddie had to say and break that down for whoever's listening.
It sets up the counterpunch really well, and his opponent obviously is there and aggressive, but he's had a rough life over the last year.
All right, y'all. So the OG Freddie Roach called the Errol Spence Jr. fight with Terence Bud Crawford, and he gave a surprise name for the victory, and I just want to give my 2 cents on what he had to say for everybody.
I'm the A side. It got to be A side, and that's why the business side was kind of, because with him, he just didn't want to believe that I'm the big dog. When we talk about ticket sales, talk about putting butts in the seats, all that, and he didn't want to believe that. He was like, well, I did this, I won these belts, I did this. That's cool, but try to take that to the bank.
If you guys remember back, he already gave a prediction last summer with everybody else who thought the fight was going to happen. And he basically said then that it was a close fight, but he was favoring Terence Bud Crawford to win. Now, if y'all remember back a few years ago, it was hinted at, rumored that Terence Crawford and Manny Pacquiao were going to get it on. And they interviewed Freddie Roach about it. Freddie Roach gave his analysis of the fight, and he had some surprising things to say during that interview, and I just wanted to preference that for a second. If you remember back, he said that he felt like if Terence Crawford and Manny Pacquiao actually signed the fight to happen then, I believe this was like 2019, might have been 2020, somewhere around that time, and he said he favored Terence Crawford to actually win the fight, which was seriously surprising as a Manny Pacquiao fan, that he wouldn't ride with Pacquiao even though he was his coach. But he gave an interesting reasoning for that. He said that he only would say that because he felt like Manny Pacquiao was too distracted at the time with his senatorial duties, and he didn't feel like he would fully focus on the fight.
And you, remember, you saw nothing.
And he would most likely lose a 12-round decision, something to that effect. That he felt like Crawford would win because Pacquiao wasn't focused because of his senatorial duties. And I found that to be interesting because now he's not picking Errol Spence to win the fight. And, he doesn't have any ties to Errol Spence. He has a slight tie to Terence Crawford, because both of them, work with Bob Arum and Top Rank. I'm not sure if Freddie Roach actually ever worked with Terence Crawford as far as giving him any advice or, training him, when he first got to Top Rank boxing. So I can't say that. But being that they're both on Top Rank, I'm pretty sure he's had a few closer looks at Terence Crawford than perhaps Team Spence has, being that they've never worked that closely with Bob Arum and Top Rank. So I think Freddie Roach has an interesting take on this fight. Now, do I feel like he's right about this? He says that he feels like Terence Crawford has the better skill set.
The days from retirement. Let it go.
I hear that a lot from a lot of different boxing fans, that Terence Crawford is the more skilled fighter, but nobody really can say what those specific skill sets are. They just always say, well, he's the better boxer.
If I beat the will out of him, he probably won't take it.
Your ass about to break through the seat of your pants.
And I'm like, well, what makes him a better boxer? But nobody ever answers that question. And it always goes back to the brawler versus the boxer, or the southpaw versus the orthodox. And a lot of times I say that doesn't really mean anything, because everybody boxes their own way. You box toward the way your coach coaches the sport. So if your coach is more of a power boxing coach, if that's his background, and most coaches go off what their background is, and if that's his background, power boxing, he's going to teach you power boxing. If your coach's background was speed, when, most of the time coaches were former fighters, if he was more of a speed style fighter, he's going to teach you more of a speed style of fighting. If he was a unorthodox fighter like Roy Jones Jr., Roy Jones Jr. is going to show you things that would be more unorthodox, similar to Diego Corrales or a Prince Nassim, very unorthodox but extremely skilled boxers.
This is a setup! This is a setup!
If you put one of those guys in the ring, Diego Corrales, Roy Jones Jr., or Prince Nassim, all of those guys are unorthodox fighters. Nobody can say that they do what most boxers who are purist boxers do. Now, they do some of the things, but because they're so unorthodox, Roy Jones with his chicken style of fighting, all over the place, just throwing combinations from the craziest places. You got Diego Corrales with his heart and his combinations that come out of nowhere, and he had a very unorthodox style, throwing combinations from different places. And Prince Nassim was just all over the ring. Nobody could really keep up with him. I can't even put a phrase on what his style was, because it was a mixture of everything. Would you say that Terence Crawford is the better boxer out of those names, even though he does more purist boxing things, that a coach would say is closer to a purist boxer? But would you actually say he's a better boxer than Prince Nassim? Would you actually say he's a better boxer than Roy Jones? Would you actually say he's a better boxer than Diego Corrales, simply because he follows the rule book closer than those fighters did, and they were more unorthodox and open with their style? Or would you say that, everybody has their own style and everybody's a great boxer in their specific style? And I feel the same way about Errol Spence Jr.
Be confident. Don't complain unless you have a solution. And don't do anything just for money. And that's not just for black people. That's for anybody. The fact that we are even separated by color and religion is all meant to divide us so we can't get nothing done. And it's an obvious trick. The division thing, whether it's culturally or humanity, it's all meant so that we can stay stagnant. Just harping on petty shit is what's keeping us from really paying attention to the things that matter.
He's not the most to the book or most to the purist boxer type of style. He's more got his own style, and that style works for him, and it works very well. It works everything off the jab, and that's why I feel like he's a purist boxer, because he does work everything off the jab, and that's what most boxing coaches want. They want you to work everything off the jab, but for some reason, people still say that Terence Crawford is a better boxer. So I'm asking the community, if you had to throw those names out there, and I know a lot of people are going to say, well, those are legendary fighters. You can't compare them to Spence. I'm saying, why not?
I don't consider myself a sex symbol. I do consider myself a man who's been wrongly accused of a crime, and I'm here tonight to clear my name. All charges against me are false. There's been no proof of any wrongdoing on my part.
Spence is unorthodox. Those guys are unorthodox.
I'm about the business of government.
If you had to say that Terence Crawford was a better boxer than any of those guys, who would you actually pick? Roy Jones, Prince Nassim, or Diego Corrales? Who's he better than? And who's he a better boxer than out of those three guys?
Soldier rag on my eye, soldier fit on my frame. I scream, whoa! I come to make it that Mag 11 sing. If I died in battle, tell my folks that I was no joke when I blasted. Wrap me up in camouflage and put the tank on my cast. That brother was hip hop, that brother was gangster. That brother was tall, that brother was slim, that brother was shell shot. You wouldn't want to mess with him. I hung with the killers, I hung with the soldiers, I hung with some G's, I hung with some thugs, hung with some brothers who probably wanted to murder me, but hey, I crossed my heart and I pulled the trigger. Lord, if I die, let me see the eyes of the killer. I haunt the hate. Papa shot me through the rubber, cause he knew I would be a young bad mother. Hey, y'all know it's murder, and it's kill, and this shit's real on the battlefield.
Y'all let me know down in the comment section below. That like button for me. Sure. Subscribe. Holler at me on all social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter. More than likely to get a response on the tube, so holler at me over there. If you want to collabo, feel free to hit my Gmail, because it is a flock of cards at gmail.com. And we are Manny.
Keep a kangaroo strapped up, dog. It ain't nothing. Keep a kangaroo lined up, ready to bring something. I'm a player in my own right. Blow a eye, tote that. Copper elbow, just to roll it up and smoke that. Cause you ain't heard about me. What? Yes, Katie in the club 50D with an entourage of killers. Yeah, we tote text. And we stretching niggas out, they call us Bowflex. Got them hiding and ducking, chain tucking. I'm a wild motherfucker. Grip the grain, then I peel out. Motherfucker, got the city on lock. I'm a king. And breaking all kind of laws. Cause the police on our team. I got a shop I built up that make money every day. I'm a rap star, a ball like I'm in the NBA. With a cold ass flow and a suave ass swag. With a cocky attitude and keep a broad ass bag. Come on.
Niggas on my team, man, my niggas is me. I got some bitches on my team, man, my bitches is cool. I got some niggas on the block, they ain't scared of the block. I got some niggas in the hood, let me know what's good.
Big real, big blocks, big Chevy, big blade, big beats, big E, big money, big play, big diamonds, big wheels, big rings, big shine, big chain, big gold, big flows, big time.
Hey, yo, I take a hit of the weed and contemplate how I'm about to make the whole city congregate. Where I'm from, constant hate is commonplace. See the look upon my face, my ganja's great. KD told me that he was down south and he heard about keys through word of mouth. Now that's the type of shit to let you know I'm on the grind. A lot of niggas like I bet he blow, it's about time. Be patient, I took a vacation and came back with something for the ones that was hating. You still see me blowed at the radio station, but if they don't play it, dog, ain't no complaining shit. I'm still knocking them, ain't no way you're stopping them. Chicks like cars, you with keys, you can hop in them. And you a true bitch, I stay off the brandy like Q Rich, trying to get a few chicks. I got some niggas on my team, man, my niggas is me. I got some bitches on my team, man, my bitches is cool. I got some niggas on the block, they ain't scared of the block. I got some niggas in the hood, let me know what's good.
Big real, big blocks, big Chevy,